The door closes behind you. No windows, no clock, just a metal table and a single folder with your name printed in block letters. You haven't signed anything yet. Across from you sits a woman who never tells you her title. She studies you the way mechanics study engines, listening for flaws. On the wall behind her is a flag without insignia, clean, neutral, forgettable. You understand this never existed, she says. You nod. You don't. The first rule of the agency is silence. The second rule is usefulness. Morality doesn't make the list. 3 weeks later, your phone is gone. Your social media accounts are scrubbed. Your lease is terminated. You're moved into corporate housing under a different name. Orientation isn't a slideshow, it's a psychological disassembly. You learn acronyms before you learn faces. Hume Int, Sig Int, black warrants, denied territories. You learn that information is currency, not truth, not justice, information. Your salary is $68,000 a year, direct deposit through a shell contractor. You sign a non-disclosure agreement that outlives you by 50 years. They don't ask if you love your country. They ask if you can keep secrets from yourself. At level 1, you run data triage, 12-hour shifts in a fluorescent-lit room. You monitor encrypted chatter from regions you can't pronounce. You flag keywords, shipment, transfer, guest. You don't know what the words mean. You aren't supposed to. One night, you flag a message that leads to a raid overseas. 3 targets neutralized, 1 building leveled. You see the satellite photo afterward, smoke rising in grayscale. You stare at it too long. Your supervisor notices. You did your job, he says. You tell yourself that's enough. It has to be. You start sleeping lighter. You stop telling friends what you do. Eventually, you stop answering their calls altogether. You learn quickly, or you wash out. After 9 months, they move you upstairs. You don't celebrate. You understand now. Up means closer to consequences.
The first time you brief a field officer, your hands don't shake. That's how you know something is changing. You're no longer just flagging key words. You're building patterns. You track bank transfers, $12,400 wired to a logistics company in Cyprus. You map cell phone pings across 3 countries. You assemble lives into diagrams. You reduce people into arrows and nodes. You learn the agency's internal rule. Certainty is a liability. You speak in probabilities. 72% confidence. Moderate likelihood. It protects you. Your reports influence operations now. Drones launch because you sign off. Surveillance warrants are approved because you assess credible threat escalation. You start receiving performance bonuses, $15,000 annually off books. Your badge grants access to restricted floors. You notice how the building changes the higher you go. Fewer windows, thicker doors. One evening, you miscalculate a timeline. A courier arrives 30 minutes earlier than expected. A local asset is exposed. He disappears. No one tells you what happens to him. You check your inbox the next morning. New assignment. No mention of the asset. You realize the agency doesn't punish mistakes. It absorbs them. The psychological shift is subtle. You stop seeing individuals. You see variables. You rationalize. If not you, someone else. If not this operation, another. You're efficient now. Detached. They notice. 2 years in, a division chief calls you into a conference room with no recording devices. We need you in the field. You don't ask why. You already know. You've proven you can disconnect.
Your passport changes. Twice. You're stationed in a city where the skyline is permanent smog. You pose as a trade consultant. Your apartment is wired with your own surveillance equipment. At level 3, trust is theater. You recruit sources. You meet them in cafes at 2 p.m., parks at dusk, parking garages at midnight. You pay in cash, $3,000 here, $8,000 there. You promise relocation visas you're not authorized to guarantee. You learn to read fear. You learn to manufacture it. One source hesitates before handing over a flash drive. You remind him of his brother's pending tax investigation. The flash drive changes hands. You don't think about the brother. The agency's rule here is simple. Assets are expendable. You are not. You carry a concealed weapon you hope never to use. You memorize escape routes in every building. You never sit facing the door. One night, a source fails to show. You feel it immediately. Burn notice. You're extracted within 36 hours. Back-channel contacts whisper about interrogations. You suspect your name is mentioned. Headquarters commends your composure. You don't feel composed. You feel hollow. You start noticing how often you lie without hesitation, how easily you manipulate. The part of you that used to hesitate is quieter now. You're promoted after 18 months. Not because you succeeded, because you survived.
Now, you don't just run sources, you run officers. You're back at headquarters overseeing 3 field operatives across 2 continents. You approve payments. You authorize risk thresholds. You decide when to pull someone out or leave them in. Your base salary jumps to $112,000. Hazard incentives fluctuate. The money stops feeling like compensation. It feels like insulation. You attend classified briefings where operations are discussed like chess moves. Sacrifice the knight, pressure the flank. You understand the metaphor. A junior officer calls you from a secure line. His voice shakes. An asset demands asylum immediately. Extraction would compromise a broader initiative you've spent a year building. You have 10 minutes to decide. You deny extraction. 2 weeks later, the asset is arrested publicly. State media labels him a traitor. You watch the footage alone in your office. You tell yourself the larger objective matters more. You say it until it feels true. The agency rewards decisiveness. You're given greater autonomy. You're invited to closed-door strategy sessions. You start understanding the invisible codes. Loyalty upward, discretion downward. Protect the institution at all costs. You sleep less. You check your reflection in dark windows and sometimes don't recognize the person staring back. But you're effective, and effectiveness is the only identity that matters here.
Your office has windows again. Symbolic. You oversee budgets in the hundreds of millions, covert programs, black sites, technological acquisitions routed through defense contractors with benign names. You attend interagency meetings with military generals and cabinet officials. They speak cautiously around you. Information is leverage now. You know which senator has a son under investigation, which foreign minister has offshore accounts. You don't threaten, you imply. At level 5, the rule is leverage beats loyalty. You sign off on targeted operations that never appear in public records. You approve drone strikes based on multi-source intelligence, SIGINT overlays, human confirmation, financial trails. One operation goes wrong, civilian casualties, 8 confirmed. The press never connects it to you. Internally, you initiate a procedural review. It lasts 72 hours. The program continues. You start noticing isolation creeping in. Old colleagues speak to you differently, carefully. You represent consequence now. Your phone is monitored, your schedule is classified, even your family doesn't know where you travel. Power expands. So does distance. You tell yourself you're protecting stability, but you're no longer sure whose stability. The first time the president calls you directly, you don't react. You expected it. You oversee global operations. You sit in crisis rooms where maps glow with red indicators. You authorize cyber intrusions into financial systems. You greenlight disinformation campaigns designed to destabilize rival governments. The numbers escalate. $2.4 billion in discretionary black budget funds. Dozens of ongoing covert actions. You don't micromanage anymore. You shape doctrine. You redefine what's permissible. When a foreign operative is captured, the question isn't whether to intervene, it's whether the optics justify the cost. You learn the real hierarchy now. Elected officials rotate. Agency leadership remains. Institutional memory outlives administrations. You are that memory. The psychological shift is almost complete. You no longer debate morality internally. You calculate risk. You attend classified funerals where names aren't spoken publicly. You shake hands with grieving families who will never know the full story. You carry secrets that would destabilize nations, and you can't share them with anyone. Power feels less like dominance, more like burden. You don't campaign for this role. You're selected. The confirmation hearings are theater, public questions, private assurances. You now control the entire apparatus: intelligence collection, covert action, cyber warfare, counterintelligence. Every major operation crosses your desk. You understand how fragile everything is. One leak, one whistleblower, one miscalculation. You authorize surveillance on domestic threats that blur ethical lines. You justify it as preventative. Preemption over reaction. You begin to see the illusion of control. Global events spiral beyond even your influence. Alliances shift overnight. Technology evolves faster than oversight. You are the most powerful intelligence official in the country, and yet you react more than you command. Your friendships evaporate. Conversations feel transactional. You measure people by threat potential. You think back to level 1 sometimes. The fluorescent room, the simplicity. You almost miss it.
You step down publicly. Privately, nothing changes. You become an advisor, a shadow presence. Your phone still rings at 2:13 a.m. You no longer sign documents. You suggest. You guide. You shape successors. You understand now that the agency is less an organization and more an ecosystem, self-preserving, adaptive, hungry. You don't feel powerful anymore. You feel inevitable. You carry decades of secrets no archive fully contains. You know which wars began with a misinterpreted signal, which leaders were quietly supported, then quietly removed. You attend events as a respected elder. Cameras flash. No one sees the weight behind your eyes. Isolation is complete at this level. There is no peer, no equal. You sacrifice transparency, relationships, and parts of yourself for incremental authority. Each promotion felt earned. Each one cost something invisible. You sometimes drive past the old headquarters building at night. Lights glow on the lower floors. You wonder who sits in your old chair. Somewhere, a new recruit walks into a windowless room. A folder waits on the table. A woman without a title studies him carefully. He thinks this is about service. He thinks this is about patriotism. He doesn't understand the ecosystem yet. He will. The door closes behind him, and it starts again.